Hey guys, welcome to video two. My name is Josh. I've been a CRNA about 8 years, and I'm here to help you guys get into CRNA school and more, just throughout your whole journey. Anyway, so you've met your minimum requirements, and you're trying to make your application stand out a little bit better than the rest of the 300 applicants for your 10 spots that you're applying for. So here we go. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about GPA. It's probably the most important one, to be honest. That's the one that everybody always looks at first. That's the one that holds people back from actually applying because they're like, oh, I'm not going to make it. What's the point? It's definitely the strongest part of your application, but it's not the only thing. I'll use myself as an example. I had about a 3.3 GPA when I applied. My sciences were a little bit higher, but my overall was about 3.3. I still got in. I've been a CRNA 8 years. Some things that you can do to kind of make your application better. Do clubs. I was president of one of the clubs at my university. You can do community service, job shadowing. You can shadow a CRNA for as much time as they'll let you. Kind of helps if you're friends with one. If you're not, then there's a whole network of CRNAs on social media that do job shadowing, and they would be happy to connect you with somebody in your area. I do know one CRNA that got in with over 80 hours of shadowing. Now, to me, that does seem like overkill, but also if I'm on the acceptance board, I'm looking at that and I see 80 hours. This person's committed. They really want to get in. There are certain classes that you will have to retake. Say AMP. There's AMP, or you could take an advanced anatomy and physiology as well. But some of those you will, if you do poorly, you'll have to retake to show that you can do it now. However, that's a freshman level course. If you do poorly in that, just make sure you do well in a lot of your other more advanced junior and senior classes. If you do poorly in anatomy and physiology freshman year, but you do really well throughout the rest of your nursing career, they're going to overlook that. You just need to make sure that it's not happening more than once. Okay, expanding your credentials. So there's 1 to 2 years of ICU experience required to get to even apply to CRNA school. That's not necessarily black and white. I have some friends that got in. They started applying to CRNA school after about 6 to 8 months, and by the time they got into the CRNA school, it was the 1 to 2 year requirement. So that's kind of there's a little leeway there, but the CRNA school is getting a lot more competitive now, so that might not be the case anymore. This was a little while ago. But some of the other things you can do is you can apply for credentials, pass your CCRN exam. I know CCRN was something that I did not take, but I would expect that is going to be a requirement now if you want to get in on your first round of applications or even your second round. And it's something that if you apply and don't get in, that's something that I would highly recommend that you do to make sure that you don't do the same thing twice. All right, so I know I already talked about this, but shadowing a CRNA is going to be so important. So you can shadow as much or as little as you want. I know most schools will require some shadowing. And I talked about my friend that shadowed 80 hours. That's going to really stand out on an application. How they can check you on your hours, I have no idea, but make sure that you shadow a lot, and maybe even shadow different kinds of CRNAs. There's independent CRNAs where they do a lot of their own regional anesthesia, where they don't work in a team model. And then there's these big teaching facilities where their CRNAs will be working in a team environment, doing a much bigger cases and a lot sicker patients. So I would kind of get a variety on different CRNA shadowing experiences. Your personal statement is going to be a requirement on most resumes. Now this one's very important. You want to avoid restating the entire resume. You want to use a narrative to basically describe your experiences and how you've become the person that you have and why you want to get into CRNA school now because of these experiences. Keep it short, keep it sweet, and to the point. People, these application board committees, they don't want to be reading a 3-page paper on why you want to make so much money as a CRNA. They want to know why you actually want to be a CRNA. Your personal letters of recommendation are going to be very important. I feel like I'm saying everything is very important to this point, but this one is actually important. You want to make sure that you use somebody that actually knows you and can write a narrative about you. Now, I used a lot of people that I worked with in the hospital that I barely knew. They wrote me recommendations, will recommend, check mark, yes, but you really want somebody to be able to write about you and to kind of pull for you to get into that school rather than just saying, yes, I do recommend. I would recommend getting a CRNA to write one, maybe some doctor that you worked with in the past, maybe somebody that you've dealt with challenging experiences in the hospital, and they can talk about that briefly. But I would definitely make sure that you put a lot of time into getting these personal recommendations. So we've talked about GPA, shadowing experience, personal statements, and letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation. These are all very important. The strategy on your application is almost as important as the actual content in it. If you have any questions about either of these specifically, I'll be happy to answer, either comment or DM me on social media. I'm happy to answer any of these. I'll be making videos about each one in the future, but feel free to reach out. Like, subscribe, stick around for the next video. We'll be talking about interview secrets.